Talk to us.
I like it because...
Go.
Business-wise, it's great for Adam, though.
Oh, is that?
I mean, no.
Wow.
No,
Wow.
the way they...
Flagrant has come a long way since it started. Before the podcast seemed wild yet casual. Fast forward to today and it feels like it's turning into something different. There's been a lot of change, some of which I have controversial thoughts on, but I'll go into more details on that in a bit. Every year they've grown their fan base, but last year seemed like a lot of fans started to all of a sudden declare their hate for Flagrant. And in 2023, there were a lot of moments that put Andrew in a bad light. But aside from that, if you've been watching the pod for more than a year, then you may have noticed that there's been an overall shift with Flagrant. It's evolved into an oxymoron. There's parts of the pod that just contradict other parts. It's a comedy podcast that's battling between a casual hangout amongst comics, and then you have this late night show feel with over-the-top fake laughter and a main host with an inflated ego. When I started watching a couple of years back, it definitely felt a lot more laid back. They didn't take themselves too seriously. It was much more wild and lighthearted, but the thing is, as they get older and more successful, things have started to shift and feel less and less casual. At the same time, Schulz is 40 and at times has the sense of humor of someone in his 20s.
That's where you sug on his dick, dude. You fucking idiot. I hate you.
Yo, how did you fall for that, Shane? How did you take an Uber here from Queens to fall for that, Shane?
Speaking of Shane Gillis, he thankfully called out another weird behavior from Schulz, which is the profound thinker act, where Schulz summarizes out loud what his guest has just explained to him. At first, I didn't know if he was doing it for himself, or maybe he thinks his audience is too stupid to understand the point that the guest was just making, so he feels like he has to explain it again. Or maybe he's doing it to help make the guest feel more important, giving whatever statement they've just made some more weight. Either way, it's a little goofy. But there is one behavior that you've probably noticed. I think it annoys 90% of the Flagrant audience, and that is the forced and over-the-top laughter. His laugh has always felt forced at times, even in the earlier episodes, but now it seems more frequent.
Comes in, she gets up, she has her egg white omelet, she's only lying to herself.
Yeah.
She gets in a minivan. In terms of pure stagecraft, I like this.
Talk to us.
I like it because...
place and you're like, yo, I love it, but I can never.
It's a great culture. I love the
That's how he
music,
feels.
some of the food, all of that stuff. You know what I mean?
Not enough car kept saying that about your women.
What?
I'm not listening to this. Who cares what you got to say, bro? It's Saucy Santana. They don't like that.
I get making the guests feel comfortable, but it feels inauthentic. We can all tell it's forced. I think it could be a calculated move by Schulz. Seeing someone else laugh makes us want to laugh more. It's why you're more likely to laugh at a comedy show rather than watching it on TV. And I don't think he cares that it looks fake because his audience keeps growing.
When
was
you're
I phony?
phony with somebody
When
and
was
then
I
you get a
phony
real
with you?
reaction, you can't be upset.
When was I phony
But
with
you're
you?
doing exactly what you should do. You should try to get your moments. This is a good moment for you.
Bro, you're crazy. You think I'm doing this for clicks?
Even the way your voice sounds when you say it isn't real.
Are you
Do
serious
you think
right
you're
now?
being real?
I'm
Just try to
asking
be
you.
you.
I mean,
I do sense that you're playing a bit of a character, and I don't have as much of a tolerance for characters as I do for authenticity.
I didn't realize how ironic that statement was until recently. Schulz telling Steiny that he's playing a character and being phony when almost every week he's forcing out laughter. This interview was at a point where Schulz felt like he was now above someone asking him boring questions, and so I guess he had to make an example of Steiny. This right here is part of the contradiction with Schulz. The sense of humor on Flagrant is usually pretty crazy, a little self-deprecating at times, and just feels casual. So when he seems to get offended by such a trivial conversation, it feels like a different side of Schulz that we're not supposed to see. This is around the time that Schulz is becoming more and more of a prominent figure on Flagrant than he already was. Akaash is no longer featured on the thumbnails. Speaking of Akaash, the main member of the Flagrant laughing track, I've realized one of the worst parts about Andrew Schulz is actually Akaash, because you have Schulz who cannot get enough of himself, and then you have a guy next to Schulz stroking his ego.
Can I tell you something? Akaash ain't read shit. I would bet any amount of money that you didn't read 3 pages of that book.
I read the entire book, forgot everything.
There's no way. It's impossible.
2007 probably I read it. That's a long time ago. How much do you remember about the book you read fucking Night in high school?
Ellie Wiesel.
Yeah.
I could tell you front to back. What happens at the end, sees himself in a mirror for the first time. I literally started crying when I read that passage. You can look it up right now.
No, I do remember one part of that book because it made me cry too. I don't remember the
Don't
mirror.
output my shit.
I'm
Don't
saying
be a
I'm wrong.
Vivek.
I'm saying I'm wrong.
You're being a Vivek
I'm
right
saying
now.
I'm wrong.
You're hopping on the Trump train. You're being a Vivek and hopping on the Trump
I'm
train.
saying I'm wrong.
stand
He
on
would
your
love
own
to hop
shit.
on that train.
Imagine sucking up to your boss and then him calling it out in front of the whole office. It's a small example that Akaash is just way too agreeable when it comes to Schulz. I showed you guys a couple of months back when Andrew woke up that day and wondered if it was possible to be too harsh with Akaash. And the answer is no. Akaash will humbly sit there and take it and eventually just give in to Schulz so he stops picking on him.
If you need the wheelchair, I don't know. I don't know if you could
You
travel.
used a wheelchair when you sprained your ankle.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I was trying to get fake
He had a
sympathy,
legit
bro.
injury. He wasn't being a lion fucking Indian. We might have to cut this, but the smell was honestly, like something you've never experienced.
I have.
You have? But fuck me, bro. Like, it was one of those things where I was like, this is, it's not a stereotype. They are fucking emanating stink.
It's a distinct BO.
If when I go to India and everybody there smells of body odor, I deserve that because I'm going to their culture and I'm adopting their culture, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't go to the beach resort and complain there's sand. You asked to be here. Yeah. We're in the United Arab Emirates, okay? We're flying Etihad. It smells like a fucking pet store.
God damn, son.
I mean, it smelled like a hamster cage, dude.
I can't argue with the smell. I won't argue with the smell. It's a smell that's there.
I know it's comedy. I did actually find it funny, but here's the thing. I didn't think it was funny because it was a smart joke or a good impression. I thought it was funny because it was absolutely humiliating for Akaash. He almost deserves it for sucking up to Andrew too much.
I just didn't go. Okay, yes, I had some.
But let's move on to another issue. We've already talked about how the show traditionally is for wild jokes, casual hangout, but also some serious conversation. And it's great when a podcast can do both. But for Flagrant, this creates a bit of a dilemma because there's one member of the pod that works with it being just a casual hang and then feels out of place when it's a serious conversation. And that is Alex Media. Before I say what I'm going to say, I think he's most likely a nice guy. This is going to sound a little harsh. The episodes that have interesting guests can feel refreshing. It's something new, but then Alex is sitting on the side staring into the abyss because they're not talking about sports or anything pop culture related. Even though he's not the best speaker, I do think him and Schulz have good banter, which gives him value to the pod. But when they have guests that are more nuanced, you know, they're not talking about music, sports, or social media, Alex should probably just sit it out. And I know that might come across as mean, but I just don't think he fits. Even when he picks up the courage to say something, it's rarely a good question, and sometimes he'll try and make a joke, but that's really not his thing. And it usually silently bombs. I think the audience has probably gotten used to Alex bombing because when he does, we don't even notice it anymore. It's like, you know, oh yeah, that's just Alex bombing over there in the corner. He sometimes does have funny stuff to say, but it's rare. He tries, and I'd rather him try if he's gonna be up there instead of just sitting there staring.
Come on, bring up a topic or something.
Go. Business-wise, is great for Adam, though.
Oh, is that?
I mean, no.
Wow.
No,
Wow.
the way they've been marketing it.
Fucking Alex. Fucking Alex. Alex with a real fucking hot take over here. Was it good? Was it good business-wise? Wow. Where'd you get that one from, Al? Where did you get?
I bet the way they've been marketing it.
Because it was mad quiet, and we were
Yeah, I
searching
know,
for something to say, and you were just trying to help.
Yeah, I
but
know.
it was just such a useless sentence. And we were gonna try to do something.
I know.
And then it just went like that.
No, but do you think it's good business?
Yeah, it was really good business, but the way they've been building it up.
There have been guest appearances where Alex made himself useful and called out the guest or was the voice of reason. Sadly, this is like a once-in-a-year event. But when it does happen, I'm thinking, all right, Alex, let this man speak. But then there will be times like this where I'm like, who let this man speak?
No one's trying to absolve rappers influence. A parent should raise their kids.
Even when they have someone on like Russ, who's a hip-hop artist, it can still look bad for him. Unfortunately, he didn't do himself any favors with this episode, as he just doubled and tripled down on a really dumb point that he was trying to make. So the argument here is Russ says that rappers who don't live the negative lifestyle that they rap about should take some responsibility for being a bad influence, because it's not like they're being authentic. They're selling an image that isn't real and they're just doing it to sell records. For example, Future apparently not doing the drugs that he rapped about. And we have a real life example of another much younger rapper, Juice WRLD, who said that he did those particular drugs because of Future's music. Juice WRLD later had a drug overdose and sadly passed away. So Russ's point was that yes, parents should take responsibility for their kids and we all should know better, but also, hey, if you're going to fake the negative image, then you should share some responsibility of the impact it has on young kids. It's a pretty straightforward argument that everyone on the pod agrees with except for Alex. He tries to make the argument that rappers are like movie stars. If Hollywood doesn't get in trouble for action movies, then neither should rappers, because it's all free speech and, artistic expression, which is such a stupid take. I couldn't believe he kept saying it. Now, I'll play some parts, but before I do, if you're enjoying this, hit the like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel and it puts a big smile on my face.
The audience that's most influenced by rap thinks it's real. And the issue that I have is that if it is not real, don't push it because it's negative. Look, we have seen it live in the flesh. Juice WRLD said, I did drugs because of you. Juice WRLD died of a drug overdose by following somebody who does not even do the drugs that they said they did.
I think we're kind of arguing two things. No one's trying to absolve rappers influence. A parent should raise their kids.
For sure.
Kids can look up to somebody and be influenced by, but at the end of the day, it's up to the parents to raise your kid.
I agree.
So it's this artist should be able to be an artist.
If you are living these things, that's incredibly unfortunate, and you were born into a situation you probably couldn't avoid, and you should be able to speak on your experience. But if you did not live them at all, you are further reinforcing the stereotypes of the black community just so you personally can
get money.
While those
That's
people
the definition of selling your soul.
Yes,
And
but why can you be 18 and 19 and watch John Wick and not want to go out shooting everybody?
No, see,
why do you have that wherewithal? But
this
then
correlation
you
Wick isn't a documentary.
It doesn't matter.
No, it does.
Why do you have the wherewithal to know that?
Come on, bro.
You're aware of the difference between a movie.
That to me, exactly. Hold on.
Right?
Guess who is the majority of
his Future lyric that made me want to do the thing.
This is
even when I was younger.
This is important.
When I was listening to March Madness, I did not.
DMX though.
Bro, but hold on.
Keanu Reeves exists.
Future's not telling anybody to go out and do drugs. He's just saying what he does.
Do you know what a cosign is?
He don't go tell you, yo, guys, everybody go out and do it.
Bro,
do it.
People are what they do, not what they say.
But he's saying what his experience. He's not advocating for you to go out and shoot people.
Yes.
I'm sure we've all argued with someone who says something that's either factually incorrect and you don't want to make them look stupid in front of everyone because then they might get defensive, so you just gently try and explain why they're wrong. The rest of the guys tried to gently pick apart his argument, but not in a way that would make him look bad, but he did that all by himself. Alex does occasionally have decent questions for the guests, and he's gotten much better than even a few months ago, but before he always seemed just out of his depth. And if you're new to the pod and you're trying to figure out what the structure is between these guys, it's always odd when one of them barely says anything, because you're like, what's that guy's purpose? If he's not good at talking, then what's he doing on a podcast? It's like having a member of the audience just sitting there watching the guests. Sorry, I've strayed a bit off topic with Alex, but I had to mention it. My point is, Alex doesn't really fit the more serious episodes. So it's a bit of a dilemma in my opinion. It feels like they're tugging between casual and serious. And you could even apply this dilemma to the set design. The set before looked like casual guys hangout. It fit the theme. A couple of machetes and some Jordans behind them, to now something that feels much more sophisticated. It doesn't look like a podcast set, it looks like something you would see on Netflix. And I think most would agree that the set looks nicer than anything they've had in the past, but it also feels less down to earth and in turn more disconnected from the original feel of the pod. It looks good, but it's just a trade-off in my opinion.
Do you want a kit? I got a nice
We
kit.
can't just skip over what just happened
What
here.
just happened right there?
You don't know if you got a car?
I think much of what people dislike about Flagrant is the obnoxious feel of the show. Previously, with the casual setup and even the way they described themselves and their fan base, which is called the Arsehole Army, they would have segments such as All Feelings, No Facts, which I haven't heard them do in a while, and with Andrew's egocentric personality and performance laughter, it's turning Flagrant into a late night show rather than a group of friends hanging out. There's less satire and more Schulz epiphanies. The conversations on average are more serious and less laid back, and when I say serious, I mean no one's doing a bit. They're having genuine discussion. They're having more interesting guests, which I enjoy, but it leaves Alex looking out of place. To me, it feels like they've drifted a lot from the original identity of the show. I guess you could argue it's becoming more mature as they get older, but the pod is only 4 years old, so it feels like a big shift in not a lot of time. I think a couple of years back they were in much more of a sweet spot. Now it feels like they're trying too hard, or maybe it's a bit overproduced, but what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this, hit the like and subscribe, and thank you for watching.